Hey, everybody, and welcome to the Feminine Legacy Podcast. This is your host, Jackie Ma. And today I want to talk about ethics. Last week we talked a little bit about integrity, and we'll keep weaving and talking about how we can all come home to a deeper sense of integrity, how we can deepen our sense of ethics and accept responsibility for our lives, and truly, hopefully, all of us are getting closer and closer to a deeper connection with our source and what it means to be a sovereign being. And in order for us to take up residency and sovereignty, we have to truly occupy our vessel. We have to truly do what we're calling now embodiment, which is the act of bringing spirit into matter, to re embody, to remember. Similar to Isis and Osiris and the story of remembering, of coming back into the BODY with our highest consciousness. So, first, let's talk about ethics. I just went and looked online, and the definition is the moral principles that govern a person's behavior, conduct, or activity. So, let's just take a really loving account with joy, because we got to keep it funny, at our current landscape. Each one of us is looking out into a world. And for some people who are lucky and blessed enough to have a smaller community and like your life is more inward, um, you might not be ingesting the massive like illusion that's happening all around the world. Like if you most of us most of the people I know now, we don't turn the TVs on. Like we access news from the media still, but we really have come into a deeper understanding that the external world cannot be our living authority anymore. Like if you're going to be healthy, sound, and be a sovereign being, we're going to have to really take account as to how we're moving and walking in the world. So, as it pertains to ethics, everybody's ethics are pretty botched because we have left our own sense of inner spiritual sovereignty, and we are looking out at the trajectory of the world as a moral compass, right? And everything we see is upside down. You'll hear me say this over and over again because I cannot say it enough. Everything around you is upside down. Everything that you're seeing, like people's ideas, beliefs, the general mainstream ideas, ideologies, medicine, everything is inverted. And this is a great way. It's very uncomfortable for us to shake up and wake up into that revelation. But I mean, this is the calling for you to say, what do I know? If I was not distracted by the external world, who am I and what's my true sense of knowing underneath the infrastructure of beliefs? And that is your beliefs from your family of origin. That's the beliefs from your religious structures, from the medical industrialized complex. Everything that you swallowed as a little baby is your responsibility. And so, as it pertains to ethics, everything is unethical because everybody's awareness and barometer is operating at different levels and capacities of consciousness. So, of course, we look out at the world, some of us, and we're like, whoa, whoa. I mean, how did things ever get this far? How did things get so corrupt? How did we let this happen? And the reality is we lost sovereignty. Each one of us participated in this collective nightmare to our own degree, and we have to accept responsibility for that. Everywhere we were not sovereign in our own being, everywhere we were not willing or ready or capable of standing up for ourselves or others, every way that we have participated in this madness, now is the time to lovingly, without condemnation, I've done that. Let's not do that. And come back and be like, whoa, we have to reassess what the hell's going on here. But first we have to clean up our own house. You can't go march out into the world with your fists and expect the world to be a better place when you haven't gotten your house right. Spiritual sovereignty is a real thing. We are benevolent beings. We are one with the source. We are daughters and sons of the one incarnated into this form. And we are also now the mothers and fathers of this new world. And so we have a lot of responsibility, and the legacy that we want to leave is directly proportional to the light in which we're able to bring. So, how are we going to do that? How is each one of us going to take an inventory of our own lives and not get caught up in everything. And I want to say something about ethics real quick. I know that I have been bamboozled by it. And everything I teach and share from is from my own embodied wisdom about how I got to know what I know. Oh, and it took a lot of grit to get here. But the reality is, spiritual folks, we are all spiritual beings, every single one of us, whether or not you're walking a path that is designated as as a path of connecting with a God source, whatever the case may be, you inherently are a spiritual being. Period. End of story. You might have forgotten it because you've been in the upside down land, but it does not change who you are innately in your being, in your soul. You are made of spirit, and you are coming into flesh and bone to incarnate into this vessel, this beautiful chariot, which is going to guide you all over the world. But if you are not the one that is guiding the instrument, telling it where to go, telling it what to do, fully embodying it, guess what? Something else is going to embody it, which is happening all over the world. And if we don't take account of our ego structures and take care of our inner house, they are going to run amok and run our shit. And that's what we're seeing all over the world. We're seeing people, souls that are not connected, not home, not connected to their source consciously. Of course, we're all connected to source. They're still breathing. So they are. However, what is fueling the vessel, what is fueling the instrument, is oftentimes incredibly unethical. So we have to take back residency and sovereignty of our own spaces, our own homes. And there's a million and one ways to do that. And that is for my private practice. I'm just here like blasting and sharing what is happening. Now, as it pertains to ethics, I mean, I see there's really, we're all beautiful souls. We're all in different levels of experience. We're all in different levels of awareness, each one of us, all the time. This is the school of Earth. So there's a lot that's going down, and there's so many opportunities for us to learn and to remember and get more sovereign. Every day is an opportunity, every moment. So, where I want to lean in with this next is let's talk about ethics. So, I'm going to give you the simplest of explanations because I want to give you real spiritual understanding. Like, how can you be true if you're covered in illusion? Right? There's a saying that's like, when you know better, you do better. And a lot of people just don't know better, or everybody's doing the best they can. To a certain degree, that can sometimes be true, right? Based on the level of awareness that folks are walking with. So here's an example about ethics from the small to the big. A beautiful, loving grandmother wants to send chocolates and cookies and sweets to her grandchildren because she loves them so much. And so in her heart, that's the intention, right? She does not know that the chocolate that she's sending is terrible for her grandchildren. She does not know, she's unaware. She doesn't have the awareness that the cookies she's sending are riddled with chemicals, right? She doesn't know that. Now, her heart is wanting to be authentic and loving. And so she's doing the best she can with what she has to want to send this gift of love. And is it good for her grandchildren? Absolutely not. um, it's just not. So is it ethical that unconsciously she's feeding chemicals to her child? Where she is at her level of consciousness, it's the best she can do. It's all good. Like, that's just what's here for the experience. Every single one of us knows this and is experiencing this in our living world. Every day we're waking up to being like, what? That toxic spray that we've been, raised with, that we've been spraying our pots with is actually like a biochemical and it causes cancer. Oh shit. We can't use it anymore. Our parents weren't trying to kill us. It just was something that was going down, right? Because we didn't have the awareness. We had been lied to, and there wasn't a lot of consciousness. But here's the thing. Oh, it's very fast and clear. Here's the thing. Somebody else probably knew that it was toxic, right? That's another level of ethics. These scientists that we're all giving power away to, they knew this had been tested, right? This is on the market. Do we believe that we're all completely naive to the fact that this is a horrible toxin and it's still in our supermarkets? Like it's still legit legal. Knowing everything we know about the chemicals, the food is still in the supermarket. Our maxi pads still have chemicals in them and they're legal, legit, and they're not even FDA freaking approved because who is the FDA? The fuddy duddy motherfucker. Come on, y'all. Come on. We got to wake up. This is the inversion. This is the freaking inversion. So that was one example of ethics, right? And then we can look at something much bigger, like the medical industrialized complex and all these beautiful doctors who really went into this um, to this trade because they felt like they wanted to serve humanity and wanted to be of service. And many are doing that. Like I'm a cherry picker, so I'll never, demean an entire system because I use it as needed, and I also honor my all the other ways that I know to be more holistic that are better for me. And as I keep evolving and growing and my awareness keeps evolving, I'm able to bring in more of the things that I need that are more aligned for me. And also, I become more equipped as a sovereign being to be able to use my mind, my heart, and my body to heal myself. So that's another piece. But so these doctors, police officers, but let's use the doctors for this one. Um, who they have this deep heart calling to, serve life, to serve people and save lives. And so they go through all this rigorous training. Same thing with psychologists, whatever. Everybody is like, starts with a beautiful way in their heart that they're like, I want to make an impact in the world. I want to help. Right. And then they go into these corrupt systems and they employ the beliefs, the constructs, the contracts, everything that is involved in these organizations. We all do this when we go to school, for example, right? When we learn from somebody. So there is something that we adapt to and we inherit the conditioning and the consciousness of the systems that we are connected to. Now, the systems are completely unethical. Now, was it always this way? Probably not. Like there was some really, really beautiful people that were like, we have this disease, we want to try to create this. Like it was once motivated by something that was pure. And then it was also not able to be as pure as it could be because the level of awareness at where folks were operating did not allow them to see that, wow, by testing this product on animals in order to get a good result for humans, I actually hurt animals, right? Like our parents, when our parents' generation was smoking in the car with us, they weren't trying to kill us. They didn't have the awareness that smoking in the car was wrong because they didn't know that it was linked with cancer. Maybe somebody else knew that. Maybe they didn't, because again, we're all evolving in awareness. Now, what's fucked up is when we evolve in consciousness and we become aware that something is wrong and that we have contributed in a harmful way to society, but we hold back that information, right? That would be an example of something that is like purposely unethical. But the truth is, people are unethical all day long. All these psychiatrists who are just writing out, endorsing different drug companies and sending out all of these people that we're in a drugged society, y'all. This is a drugged society. Every time a doctor is writing her script to give birth control pills or give Lupron or whatever it is to human beings unaware of the repercussions or aware and silent about what's happening, this is unethical. And most doctors don't know that they're doing something wrong because there's not enough awareness yet that there is something wrong. And then you see when people start to reach levels of consciousness that are higher and they're like, this is terribly wrong, it doesn't feel right, then they make a conscious choice to step out of being unethical and take their place in some other way. And we saw that big time with COVID, right? We saw that with nurses and doctors that were stepping out and like, this doesn't feel true for me. If we have to manipulate people and buy them McDonald's and give them $100, like something's not right here. It's an upside down inversion. If you have to exploit people to drug them, something is wrong here. So it's unethical. And here's the thing about ethics. once you become so indoctrinated in it, once you realize the harm that you've done, a soul realizes and wakes up, it all starts to arise. And I know this again from personal experience. It is really hard to want to tell the truth because there is so much shame at a soul level. There's so much that somebody is carrying that keeps them from wanting to really like stand up and be like, oh shit. And when people do, I mean, it's so powerful. I mean, those souls are so powerful. And like to do it to the magnitude, right? All these doctors that were like, what? No, this is wrong, what's happening. And still the world is silent. I mean, this is just one massive infraction on our human souls. But this has been happening. We've been like saying yes. Every time we download the new app and we don't know what we're downloading, we're like, yes. Every time we don't read the label, we all became really we handed over sovereignty in so many ways. So we're evolving as a society right now, and we're growing up and we're saying, wait, what's in this? Because I know this boss is not telling me the truth. And that's the bottom line here. You have to be able to understand that all of these people, as uncomfortable as it is, these people do not have your best interests at heart. And even if they do, what is the level of awareness that those people are carrying that you would defer to them and put yourself in their care when they may not even be able to have any more insight or wisdom than you? Knowledge is knowledge, y'all. Science is about gathering knowledge. It's hypotheses. It's nothing about it is true until it's true, right? And oftentimes we're seeing more and more, it's like a fractal of what's true. And there is a whole other story. What we're seeing in science right now, 5 years from now, it's going to be an entire different platform. So before we start investing and continue to defer to folks, defer to our religious institutions, defer to our medical industrial complex, like, do you think that that doctor or those midwives and nurses that are trained that want so much to be a part of birth, like that gorgeous innate calling almost of like, oh, I want to be part of helping women to have, safe and beautiful births. Do you think they realize that in the system that they are being trained in, it takes some time for folks to realize that what they're actually doing is assaulting women and intruding in sacred business and impacting and causing more harm to baby and mama? And it takes time. You see a lot of people step out of that ring of illusion and then start to do free birthing, for example, or midwife in an entirely different way. So we're seeing examples now of the way in which the human species is evolving and learning, and we continue to do better. So, of course, it feels like there's a lot more on the line now because some of this stuff is literally life or death. Like our kids' boobs are being removed. Like there's a real conundrum in having left our sovereignty. And each one of us has to account for it. Again, it's an in-house situation. Where have we allowed this to happen inside of us that we would allow this to happen in our world? And ethics. So when we hear like the board of ethics or even in everything, I mean, from therapy to all of these ways in which we are trying to be ethical with the limited information that we have, the only way to do all of this is to step out of these man-made structures and get free, quite honestly, right? That's why you see so many people starting to grow their own food. Like people are trying to take back sovereignty in areas of their life where they were not sovereign. And it is huge undertaking. Like it requires a lot of love and compassion because all of us pretty much gave up our authority and true sense of responsibility and gave it to our political government, gave it to our doctors. I mean, it's generational and we are trying to heal from it. And now we're still being bamboozled and used in all the ways. And it's really, really a challenging time. So looking at ethics, we have to look at where are we unethical and be really just loving and curious about that every day in our relationships. Every day I see something in myself that I'm like, whoop, we got to tweak that, right? So, what does that look like in our bigger systems, right? So, you have to be able to look at that. Like, do you think your doctor is meant to fix you? Do you believe that you don't have a sense of responsibility in that? Do you believe that your doctor is the authority? I called my gynecologist a few weeks ago, and I know they only know what they know. And big love, I know that it requires a great deal of study and time and effort for people to go into their given fields. And a lot of people are doing they're doing work. It's great. Whether or not it's good or not, well, that depends on the level of consciousness, because I guarantee you we are all going to look back at this shit show over the past 3 years, and everybody is going to have to be really, really honest with themselves. And that's why you're seeing so many people, I'm going to say this, so many people that know that it didn't work, that knows that it did not work, but are like, oh, it's hard to face that, because then they have to face all the belief systems and the structures that were put in place, and their government, their doctor won't be able to be their parent anymore, won't be able to be their god anymore. And it's going to require them to step into a greater level of responsibility. And I'm telling you, sometimes I don't want to step into it. It requires so much. I have to shatter all the belief systems, right? I have to unlearn everything that's been taught. I have to grieve that I sold myself out personally, and that I gave away my power to all these external authority figures. Like, this is real deal, y'all. This is how we're going to make the change. So if you're looking for ethics and you feel like there is a voice inside, many people have access to it. And many people, it's so overlaid that they just can't even hear it anymore. So they can't even really be accountable for what they're doing, because it's fucking lights out for them. They're walking around and waiting for somebody to tell them what to do. And these folks need our love and prayers to uplift them. They actually don't need us to condemn them, because it is already a mess. If they were in sovereignty, they wouldn't have got to this level to begin with. So assessing ethics, personal integrity is a daily practice, all day, all the time, right? Like, where, if I sense that something isn't right, I don't need somebody else to confirm for me why that is. I don't need your science to tell me why it is that way. Once you are connected with that source and you feed it on the regular, it doesn't mean it's always easy, but it means it's always your responsibility to continue to nourish and feed that channel, that life force within us that is able to make decisions and discern. And when we don't make decisions at all, we are not making decisions. So when you see something in the world that you don't like, it's, as a sovereign being, part of this collective, declare what is true for you. I do not consent to this. I do not consent to this rhetoric. No, no. And you might not think that it has an impact, but your vote matters. That's where your real vote matters, not so much at the polls. The real vote matters in here, because you stopped voting. Like, for you, you stopped putting in, you stopped believing you actually had a say, because you lost sovereignty. So now we got to have a say over everything. And that doesn't mean that we go around like what's happening now, which is like screaming children who feels like they have to impose will all over. I mean, talk about colonizer. I mean, it's just reversed. It is just like a dominator paradigm of ridiculous proportion. And big love to folks, but come on, y'all. We have got to do better than this. And we cannot allow this. We cannot allow mental illness to run our systems. I mean, that's already been happening for long enough. Let's cease and desist that. I do not consent. So in self-governship, right, in this work of coming back, the moment that you feel like something's wrong, it's your work to explore it. Right? When you're at the job and you're being told to make rounds and to, give this shot to this person, and you feel inside of your body that it's wrong, like something's not right here. God is telling you it's not appropriate or something's off, and you keep ignoring it. You're out of integrity, right? You're already in a system that's unethical. So forgive yourself, but make a choice. You have to make a new choice. Every day we have an opportunity to make a new choice. Every day I go to my mother's house, I have an opportunity to refine my behavior and my relationship and how I'm operating and how I am, how I'm honoring what's coming up in me and not imposing it on her. Oh, it's a work of art for us to do this, but this is the work to do. So, at a bigger level, and we'll talk more and more about the infrastructures, and I'll speak more and more about sovereignty from the different houses and how it operates inside of our political system, how it operates inside of systems of race, and how we're all being used and misused because our awareness is not, it's just like we're getting pulled along. It's like somebody globally, I want to use the record, like they put a record on the record player. I'm old school. And it just starts to play, and everybody, it's like 85% of the population starts to play the same song that's on the record, right? And now it's bigger than ever because we have the interweb, right? And so it goes out like a mass infusion. And so if you're not sovereign, then you pick up the record and you start, it hooks into all the things that you are unconscious of, and it starts to, you start to play the song. You're not sovereign, you're playing somebody else's song. So each one of us has to learn how to play our own song, to play our own light, to play our own vibration, and emanate that into the masses. This is a great, this is what needs to happen for our times. So when we talk about embodiment, and I'll get into that, it's not just ooh la la, like, ooh, how can I feel more pleasure? Fuck yeah, we want to feel pleasure. But if you don't even inhabit and like understand at a spiritual level, at a psychic level, at a mental and emotional level, and a body level, what it requires for you to actually embody this the wholeness of who you are. I mean, we're just like, we're just this much in right now. There's so much here. So, together, let's really look at what's ethical. Just because everybody else is doing it doesn't mean you have to do it. Doesn't mean you have to scroll all day and watch Instagram videos that tell you how to talk to your kids. Some of it is really beautiful, and some of it is somebody else again. You giving away your inner authority to defer to somebody else who is telling you how to manipulate your ideas and your words. It's not coming from an authentic spiritual place. So you're always trying to manage yourself versus actually embodying the emanation of the energy that you've come to serve. So for folks who want to like do who folks who want to connect with their God self and really become sovereign and show up in true embodiment, that's the work I'm here for. And you might have orgasms in the meantime, and that's wonderful. But we have to be able to look at all these different houses and look at how we can get truly sovereign. Because otherwise we'll just give that away too. Once you find your pleasure, you'll just offer that away to somebody. We have to be able to look at ourselves, and we have to be able to find the spiritual practices that will elevate our consciousness. I have some so that you can have more awareness, more consciousness, and bring it into the body. And we also have to listen to our yes and our no. For Christ's sake, stop listening to everybody else and listen to yourself. What is being told to you? And not just what's being told to you from your body, because the body has a lot of stories. So we'll get into that at another time. But what is the heart of you? What is the truth of you saying? And it doesn't have to be that you come in and deep listen. It's normally right there. This feels terrible when I say yes to this. When I go and hang out with this person, something doesn't feel right. There's something that's off here. When I go to my job and my boss speaks to me in this way, something's telling me something's wrong. When I feel sick, when I wake up every day and I have to go to my job, it's probably not a good look for me, right? So all of these things where we feel cornered and we keep agreeing, we keep making new agreements and saying yes, instead of really reflecting and looking at there might be another way. So we have to look at that. And I'm going to say one last thing today, and that is, again, we were taught to defer outward. There's nothing wrong. It's okay. We're all in this together. It's okay to grieve about it too. There is a reason to grieve about it. That we don't even know our true sense of self, our true compass, because we didn't have enough love for ourselves, and that we were taught from our world to leave ourselves. So now coming home to the self in whatever way, in whatever path you choose to do that, just making the decision is the first start. Like besides getting out, I mean, it's as simple as that. What Jackie is saying makes sense to me. I am not sovereign. I'm afraid. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm doing this thing every day and I know something's off. It's not right. I'm not, the ethics are wrong in the company, right? Like whatever I'm signing up for is not in authenticity. It's not right. So you have to be able to discern that and be really brave and choose to make a decision that you want to live with ethics. You want the highest ethics. You want the highest truth. You want to live in the light and the truth of who you are. This is the bottom line. I promise you, if you start making a choice every single day, then spirit will answer your call. But if you're going to be like, no, I don't really feel like it. It takes too much effort. Everybody else is doing it. If you're going to be that person, then it's going to take you a really long time. And I just want to say, come on. The rest of us here, we have a lot of dreams and things we want to bring to the world too. So, consider what consider yourself and consider the grandiose scale of things. Like what could we really co-create if we raised our awareness and played more co-creatively and consciously? So ethics starts from within, right? You start to sense that something's not right. We have to become ethical inside. And that continues to arise as we have more and more consciousness and we keep calling it in. We make a decision. I want to be as aware as possible today. Today I wake up, I'm choosing to be in the highest integrity. Spirit, please guide and direct all my actions, all my beliefs, all my feelings. I'm ready to come home to integrity. I'm ready to go on this journey. Show me and guide me. Spirit, bring me a teacher to show me and guide me where I'm not in integrity. These are conversations you could be having with yourself all the time that I promise you will up level you. But if you don't make the decision, you could be sitting here for another 25 years and your life will be a victim story and you will look back and you will feel very sad by the state of things because you were so covered in conditioning and illusion that you never got to fulfill your own sense of purpose and destiny and feel the joy and the freedom of what it means to actually be ethical, like to be true to who you are, right? Where your ego is not consistently at war with your soul, which I've experienced that a lot. So lots of compassion. So don't depend on your external environment or be so disappointed like that you find out this person's not ethical or that person's not ethical. How could they be ethical when you're not? If you got into bed with them and you weren't in like if you weren't in your truth and you chose them, there was a match. You agreed to it. So it's hard that when we break up with that, we're like, oh, this is uncomfortable. I realize this friendship didn't serve me. This really it did to a degree, but I realized this didn't serve me. This next thing, like I realized when I was promiscuous, that didn't serve me, right? Okay, lots of love. How do I transform that now, and how do I live in a higher integrity? So you're going to have to, for those that want to walk this path, you're going to have to break up with your institutions. I mean, that's what so many of us are doing right now. It's heartbreaking when you believe that everything that you believe and then all of a sudden you realize it's a lie. It's really quite painful. Very, very painful. You don't belong to that because you belong to source. You belong to something bigger than that. And these infrastructures were what you needed to help you grow. But there is a whole much bigger thing that you belong to. And this relates to everything. And okay, last thing for real. Spiritual people who are conscious that you're spiritual and walking spiritual paths, please let's demystify all the bullshit. Just because your ancestors are loving and divine beings doesn't mean they were always in integrity. Doesn't mean that like the sun rises and sets on them. That's another illusion that we take from this cultural conditioning. Everybody, your friend, your lover, your parents, I know we want to see everybody in the highest light, but you need to be able to see in the highest darkness too. That everybody got played, everybody's a part of this. And so integrity starts with taking inventory of, okay, I let me just continue to deepen in trust and look at how this is reflected. And for many of us, we see how our teachers get turned, right? Some really, really high, divine, powerful teachers who we love or respect, and they get turned, right? And we start to see the shadow of them instead of the light of them. First of all, they're divinely human. And every single one of us that is walking a spiritual path and asserting one's will and coming back into the weft of true power, we are continuously being tested. I mean, if we're talking about darkness, who do you think it really wants? Sure, it wants, the general population because it wants to have its will over folks, but it wants spiritual people, like all the high beings. They're going for them. So you have to be most discerning. Don't, just sit back again like you would with your medical industrial complex or your family or anything else. You have to be able to always be aware, right? Be in trust, but also that balance of like, my ear's bothering me. But also be in that place of trust of like, there is dark and light in all of us, every single one of us. And everything that happens to us is because at some level we allow it. And it's important that we accept responsibility for that. I mean, the shit that we allow, it is out of control. But every day it's more and more, oh, just this next thing. It's this next thing. Like when you let the kids act crazy, and there's no sense of like inner authority in here in the house, and we start to defer outside like willy-nilly crazy. We are the parent for a reason. How to do that in a loving and divine way, that's for each parent to figure out. I made plenty of mistakes on my own path with that. But when we know better, we do better. So this is a call to know better and to do better, and to just keep an eye when you're going into spiritual communities. They're not immune to this. Those communities have it even oftentimes even more so. So you have to watch, you have to be discerning, you have to develop your discernment. And essentially, we develop it in all these places. So it's all good. We're all learning and growing. But if we're talking about ethics, just because you're a doctor and you follow a board of ethics doesn't mean you're ethical. It means you're ethical to the extent of what you know to be true. And there's a whole gray area there. And there's oftentimes tons of hurting other people unconsciously and asserting will like we know better than somebody else, right? So much disempowering there. Like my gynecologist, I love him. I got to talk about him again because I love him so much. I'll do a whole episode on him one day. He listens to me. He knows I don't play. And it wasn't always that way. I used to be quiet, right? But the more I learned and the more I regained more sovereignty, the more I was like, I'm not doing that. Nope. You're not going to test these girls. Like, I get to decide. And he's like, okay, I'm going to suggest this, but would you consider it at least for next year? Like, and we have this relationship where he discusses and shares with me what he thinks is best for me, and I get to decide. And I'm strong enough to decide now. I wasn't always that way. So this is part of evolution. So are you going to get strong enough to decide? Are you going to make the choice to stand in your own life and create ethical behavior inside of your own system and not expect it to be out there if it's not in here? If it's not in here first, you bet your bottom dollar you're not going to experience it out there. You are only going to see to the extent of what you allow in here. So if you want to love yourself and you want to grow in truth and integrity and foster and nourish consciousness and more light, it is going to require for you to choose it, to decide it, and watch it then unfold. And if you need help with that and you're a serious path walker, but with lots of laughs, and you want to, get with me, come through the website and email me. So that's it. This was wonderful. Thank you so much for listening. I hope it was helpful for you in some way. Um, and I love you and I wish you all the most beautiful weekend. May we all be in rich integrity. May we awaken to our light. May we have courage to heed the voice within and stand in our truth no matter what. And it doesn't mean that you have to externally, although it's great to stand in your truth and out, be the truth in here. You have to cultivate it. You have to grow it inside of you like a fruit tree. And then, all of a sudden you have fruit to give people, and it's amazing. It's amazing. We're all amazing. I love you. Ciao, ciao.